Great. Thank you for joining the keynote chat, which is titled GoTo, Value Creation Where the Whole is Greater Than the Sum of Parts. I think it's a great title. My name is Akito Tanaka, and I'm a Chief Business News Correspondent for Nikkei Asia, and I'm based in Singapore. And we have here today Patrick, who is very busy, but thank you for joining, Patrick.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you. Patrick is the president of newly formed GoTo, who pretty much everyone in the audience should know him very well. So we have about 30 minutes chat, and I hate to waste time, so I would like to jump into the question. By the way, we will be accepting questions from the audience as well. Please use the Q&A box, not the chat box, for the questions, and I'll choose some of the questions at the end of the chat and ask to Patrick. Great. All right. So thank you, Patrick. Now, so to sort of jump into the conversation, it's been almost 5 months since Gojek and Tokopedia announced the grand merger, and we're discussing time flies. And it's been 5 months. And what are the sort of tangible synergies, especially for growth, that the newly formed GoTo has achieved so far in this 5 months?
Sure, Tanaka-san. Well, thanks again for having me. It has been 5 months. It feels like it was only yesterday when Andre, Kevin, William, and I started talking about this idea with our board. But it's been very exciting. I think as we reflect, we've been able to build a very unique, first of its kind ecosystem that combines transport, food, e-commerce, grocery, logistics, fulfillment, and general financial services. And so as we think about that combination and we think about what's happened during COVID, it's really allowed us to serve our customers, which include buyers, merchants, and partners in a very meaningful way. And I think that's been very exciting for us. So if you think about from the customer perspective, the ability to get access to essentials and groceries and pay your bills that are typically done offline in an online way has been very important. So just taking grocery as an example, we've been able to launch an instant commerce product together with Gojek's bikes. The promise is to do it in 2 hours, but so far on average, we've been able to do it in under 40 minutes, which is pretty amazing, especially considering Indonesia's traffic.
Yeah.
With our C2C e-commerce business, we've got this really broad array of foodstuffs and essentials. One of our team members was just sharing that, he had a real craving for Kobe beef. So he found it on Tokopedia and it was delivered within a few hours. And then of course, the offline merchants need a lot of support during this time. So being able to help them with digitalization and then, adding them to our platforms and again, leveraging our logistics and fulfillment to do hyper-local delivery has been very fruitful. And then I think on the financial services side, digital payments, fintech has also been quite important. So on the customer side, getting access to pay later and installment products, adopting digital payments across the ecosystem, which is really the glue that ties everything together. And then same for the merchants to be able to provide them with working capital, when traditionally they would not be served by, traditional financial industries. I think all of those things have been quite powerful and have benefited as a result of our ecosystem.
Brilliant. Instant commerce. I mean, that's quite a big achievement in only 5 months. What's like the size of the operation right now? Is it only in Jakarta, part of Jakarta, or what's it look like?
Good question. We're launched first in Greater Jakarta. So as we like to say, it'll come to a neighborhood near you very soon. But I think wherever there is a Gojek bike or a Gojek fleet, that's where we hope to serve. And we're really leveraging our asset base, including fulfillment, plus the fleet and our data to make sure that we can serve those customers the best and provide the right selection with maximum convenience and in good value.
Great. And besides from Kobe beef, what can you get with this service?
Pretty much anything. very popular things are obviously hand sanitizer and masks. We're finding that batteries, this week at least, we're very top of mind. And I think, as COVID persists, people are moving back into sort of the home and living categories, particularly for cooking and baking. So, whether it's that instant commerce, the O2O model, or just general selection from our e-commerce site, you can pretty much do it all.
Great, interesting. Now, another one interesting development that happened within the GoTo group after the merger was announced was that Gojek announced that it will sell its Thailand operation, I believe, to Air Asia. And Tokopedia historically has been sort of primarily focused on the e-commerce business within Indonesia, which is a large market. Now, does Gojek's exit from Thailand on ride sharing, does this get the GoTo group will sort of primarily focus on the Indonesian market for a while? Is that the reasoning behind this?
It's a good question. So I think, Tanaka-san, we're very fortunate to have started our business in Indonesia, both for Gojek and Tokopedia. And given that it's the fourth largest population in the world, given that it's one of the fastest in terms of digital growth adoption and in terms of rising middle class, all of which are very important to build businesses, then we have that very strong foundation and core to be able to start from there and grow, both in terms of breadth and in terms of depth. And if you think about any of the use cases I mentioned before, on-demand, e-commerce, or financial services, it's still in, single digits penetration. So we have a lot of homework that we need to do there, to continue to build the best technology infrastructure for Indonesia. Now, the good thing is that, with Gojek and all the use cases that we have, we're very focused on finding strong complementary markets to Indonesia, which is why you saw us launch in Singapore and Vietnam. And we plan to continue to double down on those teams and on those investments. I think with the Thailand business in particular, we found a great partner by way of Tony at AirAsia. So I think that was a very synergistic transaction for us. And with that transaction, we can take the resource and redeploy it into Indonesia, into Vietnam, and into Singapore, and be really focused on continuing to win those markets.
I see. And the idea you mentioned, besides from Indonesia, Singapore and Vietnam, are those the sort of core markets that you're wishing to expand in the near future?
Yeah, for now. I mean, if you double click on Vietnam, right, in terms of similarities of the market, in terms of the prevalence of bikes, in terms of the powerful nature of C2C commerce, I think that there's a very good fit there. So that will be a core market for us alongside Singapore.
Interesting. And this applies also to the Tokopedia business as well.
Yeah, I think we'll start with the Gojek business first, and then we'll evolve that ecosystem playbook in each of the markets to cater to the local customer base, the local merchant base, as well as the applicable sort of market and regulatory dynamics.
Okay, really interesting. Now, obviously, we're both joining this event from Singapore, and the situation in Singapore is not so optimistic if we're talking about the COVID-19 situation. And obviously, both Gojek and Tokopedia has helped a lot, helped the community a lot during the COVID-19. And now that, I'm not sure if we can say we're in a recovery phase or not, but however, what are the business challenges and, in a sense, opportunity, I guess, during this COVID-19, I don't know if we should call it recovery or what, but in this COVID-19 new sort of normal for GoTo Group?
Why don't we call it positive signs, Tanaka-san?
That's a good point, yeah.
Yeah, I think we are seeing positive signs in Indonesia. The number of cases has come down quite dramatically. And I think efforts like what we did with the Gotong Royong Oxygen Hospital hopefully help to ease some of the burden for the hospitals and the medical care workers. I think going back to the ecosystem approach and all of the use cases that I mentioned, each of those are really critical for customer, merchants, and drivers during this time. So I think we've covered off the customer side in terms of being able to basically access any good or service, right? As sort of, let's call it the everything store of Indonesia. On the merchant side, because of COVID, a lot of merchants that were very much offline focused, that relied on physical footfall, now have the ability with GoTo to get online very quickly, onboard all of their selection and supply, and get access to all of Indonesia. So I think that's a very big opportunity for us. And then taking that a step further, with our data and insights and our algorithms, being able to create a very hyper-local experience. So if you're a customer in Jakarta, you can get a Jakarta-like experience because we can get all those goods to our fulfillment center and deliver it to you very quickly with Gojek's fleet. If you're a merchant, again, you don't have to rely on physical footfall. You can access the whole nation. And then if you're a driver, you're not relying only on delivering a good or a person. It could be a good, a person, a service provider, groceries, packages, documents, you name it. So I think that diversification of use cases has really helped. And then I think for the merchant as well, as a part of one ecosystem, we can basically provide a one-stop shop to make it easier for them to do business. So there's a lot of value-added services. And then I think on the financial services side, again, we can cover the broad array across all of those stakeholders that I mentioned. In terms of the challenges, I mean, there have been a number, right? This work from home, virtual way of working is, I think, new to all of us. I think we're all getting used to it. So being able to tackle that, but we're really focused on how we can sort of bridge the gap in terms of making sure that there's as much of a level playing field as possible for those customers, merchants, and drivers, and really live up to our mission, to empower progress for Indonesia and the other markets that we operate in.
I see. I mean, you don't have to go into the detailed numbers, but if you look at, again, you don't have to disclose as the actual number or what, but like if you look at revenues, all those numbers, are they going up more stronger after COVID, or what's the momentum like during the COVID, and how is it changing as we see positive signs of the recovery?
Yeah, so I think there have been a lot of tailwinds for digital businesses generally, and for each of on-demand e-commerce and financial services, those tailwinds have been immense. And the ability to reallocate resources to focus on, a specific use case that's very powerful and strong at any given time has been able to propel that growth even more. I think the combination also allows us to improve on unit economics because now, we're not a single use case player. Every dollar of marketing and promotion can be used to grow multiple businesses. So as an example, let's go back to our Kobe beef example, right? You buy Kobe beef from Tokopedia, it gets delivered using GoSend, paid with GoPay, using GoPay later, covered by insurance, right? So really multiple areas of engagement. And it really builds that loyalty and stickiness with the customer. But then on the merchant side, again, they've done everything end to end using GoTo because the ads to attract that customer, the logistics and fulfillment to fulfill the order, and then the payments to facilitate that. All of those value-added services are very powerful from a monetization perspective, right? And so that increases our long-term value, that lowers our customer acquisition costs. We can do it in a way that none of our other peers in the market can do. So I think that's been a powerful catalyst, not just for the top line, Tanaka-san, but also the bottom line.
Interesting, great. It's really up to you, Patrick, how you take this question. But I've been asked by your very nice PR team not to ask IPO-related questions, so I will stick to that rule today. However, I would like to state a sort of a different way of asking the question. Now, both Gojek and Tokopedia has been very, very well funded from venture capitals or institutional investors or even large internet companies from abroad, U.S. and China both. How I should say this question quite carefully, but how shall sort of investors think of, now that you formed GoTo, how shall investors think of GoTo's sort of path towards profitability?
Sure. So I think, as I mentioned previously, it really accelerates our ability to become profitable because, if you're a single use case player, let's say you're e-commerce, you can only approach a customer from the e-commerce angle, right? And if you can't attract them the first time, then you need to spend again in the same way to be able to do that. And yes, there are many levers to which you can do that, but it's not as rich as, say, if e-commerce and those multiple levers don't work, we can try food, we can try rides, we can try payments, we can try logistics, we can try financial services. So I think those multiple touch points is very important. And then once you get them on the platform or on the ecosystem, being able to engage in so many ways, Tanaka-san, increases conversion, it increases retention, it increases wallet share, and increases loyalty. So that all those things add to better long-term value, right? Which means, higher revenues, and just stronger stickiness generally. And then if you think about it from a cost side, we have a lot of shared infrastructure, which helps with cost optimization. The way we do marketing and promotion, every dollar grows more than one business. So I think those combination of things actually accelerate our profitability. And so when you mention IPO, I think Andre, William, and I separately as Gojek and Tokopedia respectively had said that we're preparing to go and list prior to our merger. I think, if we were already planning to do that as market champions, together that accelerates the plan even more, creates a stronger foundation, both in terms of operations and financials. And so, what we'll see is that we're very much on track to do that IPO. And we're looking forward to sharing some more about that at the right time.
Great, looking forward to it. I always like asking these questions to especially fast-growing startup CEOs or presidents. And the question is, now you are now the president of newly formed GoTo. What excites you the most? And most importantly, what worries you the most at this moment?
Sure. I mean, I think in terms of excitement, there's a lot of things. I think we really do have the best team to be able to deliver on a huge responsibility to empower progress, starting in Indonesia and other markets. And I think this very unique ecosystem that we've got has saved us a lot of capital and a lot of time, right? So we can build bigger and faster than ever before. And, that makes me excited every day. I think in terms of the challenge, there's two things. One is really living up to that sort of big responsibility and potential. We take it very seriously, but it can also be quite daunting sometimes. But also, when you think about our marriage, if you allow me to use that analogy, we've been married for 5 months. We have a family that consists of thousands of kids, aunties, uncles, and cousins, and being able to make sure that is harmonized and everyone's moving in the right direction. And thankfully, with the same mission, values, and principles is amazing. But it by no means is a simple exercise.
Great. And when you look beyond like 5 years, I mean, in a tech world, you don't typically talk about 10 years from now because nobody knows what's going to happen. But I mean, if you kind of look at 5-year perspective, what does GoTo Group look like? Would you expand into other areas besides e-commerce, ride-hailing, and e-wallet and financial services and whatnot? How do you envision like the 5-year plan?
It's a good question. And we talk about it a lot. So the way you should think about us is, if the mission is to empower progress, the products and use cases that we build are really technology infrastructure, right? So today we've got, commerce, on-demand, payments, financial services, logistics, fulfillment. That definition of infrastructure will evolve over time. And I think we will evolve with it and, build that technology layer to continue to go broader and deeper to build technology-enabled infrastructure generally. And I think what you'll see is that, if you are a partner, if you are an entrepreneur or a new business owner, we'll be able to connect you very quickly to whatever kind of customer or merchant base that you need. And, you'll also have the assurance that we will not compete against you, right? We will not do imports from, markets like China that, may hurt that local market or hurt you as a merchant. So I think, those key values and principles will continue to be the same. So we'll just go broader and deeper in terms of market expansion, I think we're very focused on Singapore and Vietnam. Who knows where we'll go next? But I think, there are a lot of very complementary markets, including on the other emerging markets that we could consider. So I really do believe that, it's a huge opportunity. Every year when you ask me that question again, hopefully I have a better answer.
Great. And there's a related question from the audience, and it says, what are your plans for expansion in Bangladesh? It's very specific, but is there any plan?
So I think there's a question around Bangladesh and Philippines.
Yeah.
I think the answer is, never say never, but I think the intention and the focus right now is really on Indonesia, Singapore, and Vietnam.
Sure, I think which is a great strategy. Again, this may be a bit hard for you to answer, but how's the progress of OVO's this divestment from Tokopedia?
Yeah, so with OVO, we're a minority shareholder. We don't control or consolidate the asset. And I think as we've shared previously, we have plans to divest that asset. And so that's in progress. I'll keep you posted as there is more news there.
I see. It seems like a lot of people want you guys coming to the market that they live in, which is great. So please keep on posting the questions, and let me ask another question from me. I think which is very relevant to this to this keynote chat. And I'm sure a lot of entrepreneurs and startup CEOs and venture capitalists are watching this event. And many startups in Southeast Asia, maybe not even Southeast Asia, it could be from like Japan or China or Korea. They are sort of dreaming to following the success of Tokopedia, and you were president of Tokopedia before, and then of course Gojek, and then now GoTo. What advice would you give to the entrepreneurs that are starting business right now?
Great question. So I'm a big Simon Sinek fanboy, Tanaka-san. So, to quote one of his books, I think it's very important to start with why, because the why will help you define your purpose. And when you can define the why and you can define the purpose, it makes it a lot easier. Because entrepreneurship, as all those folks that you mentioned know, is very hard, right? There are always more downs than there are ups. There are hurdles every day, and the only consistent thing is that things will change. So if you have that, in the back of your mind and in the back of your heart, then it makes it easier to get up every day and, continue to fight the good fight. So I think that is quite important. And I'm paraphrasing one of my partners, William, but, if you can find your why and you can also get other people to have that why be their purpose, then you've created a mission, right? And with that mission, you can basically do and go anywhere, which I think is very powerful. And that's what we've been able to do first at Tokopedia, and now together with Gojek and GoTo Financial as GoTo. So I think, we're really just getting started there. Maybe the second piece of advice is, it's very important to find, very strong partners. And, this is important, not just across your business partnership, but also your life partner. Like if my wife had not given me the blessing to do some of these amazing but crazy things, I wouldn't be able to be here or be who I am. But also, those partners that you find to support you in terms of stakeholders and shareholders and mentors, that collective partnership or that village, similar to how we raise our kids, right, Tanaka-san, is critical to build a strong foundation and really, help support the entrepreneur and the teams and the leaders.
Interesting. I believe both Gojek and Tokopedia is about 10 years old now, since the founding of the company. And I mean, this is one of the reasons Deal Street Asia is hosting such a big event. But then the startup sort of entrepreneurial community and the investors community grew tremendously within this 10 years. And you are obviously very busy with the GoTo. But if you are, say, an entrepreneur, 20-some-year-old starting a new business, what area would you look into if you were to start a completely new startup right now?
I mean, it's a good question. So if I put back my investor hat on, I would say that, try to find an addressable market that's large enough so that, it's punchy enough where, because the rate of failure is so high that, you're sort of a bit more hedged, but the opportunity for success is enormous, and it gives you enough TAM to be able to grow into. I think if you go too niche, that also might handicap you, because you should assume that you'll pivot at least 2 to 3 times before you find the right product market fit. I think the second thing is that it's important to understand what foundational things are required at that cycle of the market, right? So where we are today, I think one of the investors have called it the rise of the platforms, right? So like GoTo and our peers. And so I think what can always be strengthened right now is that infrastructure layer in terms of e-commerce enablers, marketing enablers, financial services, which includes enablement unto itself. So I think those areas I find to be very interesting. That's also where we're investing the most, Tanaka-san.
Great, thank you. And then a little bit from the audience. This is a question specifically to Vietnam, but I would like to sort of make it a bit larger question. And the lady is saying, want to hear from Patrick on what's your momentum in Vietnam against words on the ground that you are losing. I'm not sure if this is true, but you're losing market share to Grab and C Group. You acquired a payment business in VN. Now, not only specific to this question, but how do you see the competitive dynamism in the region, especially against the other green big company and C?
Yeah, I think it continues to be very competitive across every market. And I think that's why, if you try to do the same thing over and over again and you expect a different outcome, that's not the most productive way of doing business. So taking the Vietnam example that was asked, we started moving to that market with transport. You'll see us expand the transport use case to include both 4 wheels and 2 wheels, but only when the lockdown is eased. And we did indeed acquire a payments business as well. And if you think about it from an ecosystem perspective, right, combining on-demand plus financial services is part of the GoTo playbook in Indonesia. And you'll see us localize it for that market, because that will provide us with an unreplicable, unique selling proposition that other competitors or peers will not be able to do. So that's just one example of how we localize the GoTo playbook for other markets outside of Indonesia, but learning from and having the foundation of a big market like Indonesia.
Just out of curiosity, from a global perspective, right? There's very, very big US internet companies. This could be Amazon or, Uber. We had story in Southeast Asia, so you don't really have to touch on that. But why do you think American internet companies are not successful in the region?
It's a good question.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So if you think about, let's take the e-commerce journey, right? So over the last 12 years, we fought eBay twice. We fought Rakuten, Naspers, Lazada, pre and post Alibaba. And then, there's a new entrant every year, right? And I think the reason why we've been able to maintain market leadership is because we're very localized and we're very focused and targeted in terms of the products that we build, right? So for Tokopedia, we don't even have an English version of our app. It's entirely localized for the Indonesian customer. And so I think that gives you the ability to serve your customer the best, really be obsessed about thinking about what the customer needs, and building that in a very fast and agile way that is not the case if you're not from, say, Indonesia, and you're trying to translate and localize a product that was not built in country. So I think that's the edge that we have across any business, any competitor in any of the markets that we operate in. I think the second is just local context and knowledge, right? It is our home court, therefore it is our home court advantage. And we use that in every way possible, combined with our data, to be able to stay relevant and delight our customers every day.
Right. It's interesting, isn't it? That's the reason that you are being able to provide instant commerce, right? 40 minutes delivery in Jakarta is just, I don't know how you do it, but even Amazon, if they came in right now, it would be really hard for them to do it, I think.
Yeah, so I think that bike fleet and the asset base that we've built together with our partners really is a unique and unreplicable moat. And we can build a lot off of that, right? So whether it's our own commerce, whether it's O2O or hyperlocal, there's just so much that we can do there. And right now we're really just getting started because e-commerce penetration is only in the high single digits. And if you think about that across, the data and insights that we can get to build financial services in a very meaningful way, that combination of on-demand plus e-commerce really is very powerful to be able to build that insight base.
Great. We wanted to take more questions, but unfortunately our times are up. Thank you so much, Patrick, for joining. Please come again.
Thank you, Tanaka-san. Thank you all. Stay safe.
Thank you for joining the event. Please enjoy the rest of the session and have a great weekend after that. Thank you. Thank you, Patrick.